This is episode 91 of Extraordinary Women Radio. Welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio. I am your host, Cami Gilner. Women are being called to lead with voice, vitality, and vigor. Each week, join me for wisdom-filled interviews with extraordinary women living out loud and making a difference in our world. Their stories will uplift, inspire, and spark your own purpose-driven journey. Hello, my extraordinary women friends. Raising capital to launch or grow a venture can be a foreign and intimidating subject for so many people, men and women alike. Today's Extraordinary Women Radio guest, Arezou Zarafshan, helps founders improve their odds of getting funding through VCs or angel investors. She's one of my very extraordinary clients, and she's doing important work in a field where there aren't many women. She's a trailblazer, showing up on big stages, leading important conversations, and I'm so proud of the work she is doing. Arezou grew up in Iran during the Iran-Iraq War. This childhood period in her life understandably shapes who she is today. She's courageous, she is resilient, and she's my kind of woman, and I adore her. Her story will have you on the edge of your seat. I certainly was. She is the founder of Startup Fundraising Academy, which provides a comprehensive guide to raising capital for startups. She is also the managing partner of a boutique investment firm based in Denver, Colorado. A passionate and charismatic leader, Arezou has a reputation for helping others achieve game-changing results, ranging from business growth to personal development to fundraising. Arezou is currently on the advisory board for a number of startup companies inside and outside of Colorado and is frequently mentoring entrepreneurs and founders who are passionate about transforming the world. I'm so happy to introduce you to this extraordinary woman. Let's meet Arezou Zarafshan of Startup Fundraising Academy. Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio, Arezou.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I am excited to have you here. I love having you as a client. It's been so rewarding being a part of your journey and helping the founders of companies get funding through VCs and or angel investors. It's really fun to see the work that you're doing and putting out into the world.
Oh, thank you. I just have so much fun and just, enrichment, I think is the right word, being a part of your tribe and being a part of the community. There's so much that I get out of every interaction and conversation, whether that's in person or on the phone or through your social media. It's really been rewarding to be a part of your tribe, Cami. Thank you.
Well, we're honored to have you as part of our tribe. And I think that's part of what is we have such an extraordinary group of women that come together to collaborate together. And I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your expertise is making a difference for so many companies. And we're going to get into a lot of that in just a bit. But first, I really want to start with the story of you. And you grew up in Iran during the war with Iraq. Can you tell us the story about growing up there? Just tell us more.
Yeah. So I witnessed things growing up that most people in the United States, at least outside of the United States, is a different story. But in the United States, I witnessed, they usually don't witness the things that I witnessed. So when I was 7 years old, there was a revolution in Iran and there was a change of regime. So the government changed from a monarchy to a theocracy. And that pretty much affected every single life in Iran and my entire family in many ways. And, emotionally, obviously, financially, and there were many people that lost their lives through that change of regime.
So this is what you remember growing up as being in this kind of a turmoil.
Yeah. And then pretty soon after all of that, the Iran-Iraq war broke out, and that was an 8-year war. And my family and I lived in Tehran, which is the capital. And that wasn't the front line of the war. The front line of the war was in the western region of the country. But we did get attacked by warplanes about I don't know, 24 times maybe,
Wow.
especially towards the end of the war in 1986, 87, 88. That was when, they cranked it up. And I do remember the times where, my family and I had to hunker down and seek shelter. I mean, the houses that had basements, they would go in the basement. We didn't have a basement, so
So where did you go?
We just gathered in the family room and turned off all the lights and stayed quiet and waited for the bombs to drop.
Oh wow!
And we would. I mean, because the whole house would shake. So we would kind of assess how close or how far that was to our house. And then after about, 10, 15 minutes of silence, then we were like, okay, it's over. Everybody okay? And then we'd get up and go about our lives, let's go make dinner and have dinner. You learn to survive. You learn to not get traumatized by these things. So we all learned that. So yeah.
How did that? What did you learn about yourself, and why are you? I mean, obviously, that kind of an experience makes you different today than if you hadn't experienced that. What grew up from that within you that makes you who you are?
I think, first and foremost, I am extremely appreciative of the gift of life and the gifts that we all enjoy in the United States, the gift of freedom, the gift of safety. I am extremely appreciative of it, having grown up in a different part of the world. I also still have friends, very close friends, that we all go back to that time. And there's nothing that can come in between us. So the experiences that we shared as little school children,
right,
it has bonded us in so many ways that it is very, very hard to describe. And that gift of friendship is another thing that I am just so appreciative, so blessed.
So you I'm guessing you are all in different parts of the world at this point, and you still have those connections.
Absolutely.
Back to those roots.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, we do. So many of us emigrated to the United States. So I have two friends from that era that actually live in Denver.
Oh, okay.
And, and we see each other often. But I have friends in California, in Toronto, in Iran still, and many other parts of the world. And I mean, if we pick up the phone and start talking, it's as if nothing has changed.
Oh, wow.
It's very, very strong. And then the last piece is resilience. What I'm sharing with you, and I'm sure a lot of listeners, hearing this could really feel traumatizing, and I'm not minimizing it. I really am not. What I am saying is it's amazing what a human being, what human soul can overcome, the resilience that we all have within us, and we don't give credit to it until and unless we are faced with a situation that is unimaginable. And then we get through it. And we look back, we're like, we got through it.
Right.
And so those are the things that I learned about myself. And, when times get tough and when I'm tested, that I go back again to that resilience element that, I've survived things that it's very, very difficult to describe. And hey, I can survive a traffic jam.
Exactly. Put it into perspective, right?
Exactly.
Right. And even, as entrepreneurs, you think about what we go through, all of the moments of fear and scariness, and we're stepping into things that we haven't stepped into, and it's got to put that into perspective in a very different light.
It really does. It really does. This is a story that I share not very often, but it was one of those defining moments in my life. Again, this is through the 9-year war, and the city Tehran was being bombed, and the protocol was when the warplanes would show up, the city would sound this very, very ominous type alarm, siren, and this really ominous voice would come on and say, alert, alert, we are being attacked, seek shelter, da, da, da. And there was a protocol. You turned off all the lights, you seek shelter, you stayed quiet, and then you waited for it to finish. And hopefully you survived. This one time, it was midnight, and so we all heard the siren, and, I was sleepy, and I woke up and I went to my parents' bedroom, and my grandma was staying with us at the time, and she did the same. We all gathered in my parents' bedroom and just waiting for this thing to get over. And as I am sitting there fighting sleep, I hear this high-pitched noise. It's this whistle. And, it lasted several seconds. So it was the sound of the bomb, falling.
Oh,
and it was.
So it must have been close, right?
It was a mile away from my house, and this happened back to back. So it was the first whistle, and then a giant explosion, and the second whistle, and a giant explosion. And while I was listening to this whistle, because I'd never heard it before, it had never been that close, I believed that the bomb was dropping in my backyard.
Right.
And I believe that was my last moment on this planet.
Right.
And at that moment, I was not scared at all. I did not feel an ounce of fear. It was more of a matter of fact, okay, I guess this is it. I'm glad I had a chance to live here. And that was it. Wow. And so back to the element of fear that you're talking about, when I am faced with fears, the everyday fears that we all go through as entrepreneurs, I remind myself that how bad could it be, really? How bad could it be? Right. And that puts things in perspective. Absolutely. Makes me grounded. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so how did you leave Iran?
I got on a plane. So after I graduated from high school, I knew that the future was not all that, bright for me and many women like me in Iran. So, and this had always been a part of the plan for me to come to the U.S. and continue my education. So I got on a plane. I flew from Tehran, Iran, at the time a city of 19 million, to Seattle, Washington, and then got on a Greyhound bus with my mom. And we rode to Pullman, Washington, which is Eastern Washington, a little town of 18,000 people. Oh, wow. 12,000 of them. Yeah, 12,000 of them are students. So, yes. And I just, created my life here in the United States. Okay, very good. Yeah. And tell me about being a woman in the Middle East and then coming to the U.S. What was that like? The hardest part was fighting the misconceptions and the stereotypes. Yeah. Yeah. We are not, especially Iranian women, we are far from subservient and obedient.
And I don't get that about you at all. So I totally would agree with you.
We are feisty, fighter, intelligent, well-articulate, thought leaders. We speak our mind and we fight. Yeah. And so it was.
I so see all of that in you.
Yeah, thank you. And so the hardest part was being taken seriously in the United States. It isn't that in the United States I found my voice. Yes, there is definitely a voice that I found in the U.S., but that has little to do with me not having had a voice in Iran. Right. In Iran, I did have a voice. Now, the environment is not conducive to women using that voice and speaking up. The environment is not conducive. That's not what the government likes. But that doesn't mean women don't do it. They do.
Right.
Yes, we don't have opportunities, but by golly, we fight for opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So, that was the biggest part.
Okay. And so you made your way here to the U.S. And how did you get into the work that you do today, helping companies find funding?
Oh, yeah. It's definitely been...
it's been a journey, right? Because you've been through all sorts of corporate spaces. And I mean, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So after I graduated from... actually before I graduated from college with my bachelor's, I got hired by Hewlett-Packard. And so I finished college while I was working for them. And, that was an amazing company. It still is an amazing company. And I love everything I learned about, myself and my discipline while I was working at HP. So I moved up in the corporate ladder at HP, traveled internationally extensively. Then I had another stint, a big, jump in my career. When I was in Illinois, I got recruited to go to Illinois and run product development for this, big global company. And then from there, I redesigned my career to go into marketing. That was after 17 years of practicing engineering or being an engineering leader. Realized that that's just the wrong field for me. Went into marketing and did a lot of stuff. And then a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I got invited to join an early stage startup. And this is from, enterprise level. The smallest company that I'd worked for at the time was making $1 billion a year. So I went from $1 billion a year, company that was making $1 billion a year to a company that was making just a few tens of thousands of dollars every year. Yeah. And I was invited to join the company as a CMO and co-founder. And, an extensive challenge to grow the company while you are trying to raise funds. And I wasn't raising funds. It was really the CEO that was raising money. When I joined the company, she had been raising money for over a year. And I remember the frustrations of the fundraising process, if you call it that she was, voicing. And go ahead.
And the CEO was a woman.
The CEO was a woman, yes.
Okay.
Myself and the CEO and the COO, all three of us were women.
Okay.
And I went on a couple of pitch meetings with her or investor meetings with her, and I just observed the whole investor startup founder dynamics, and it was far from clear, far from transparent. Mm-hmm. It really didn't. When you apply for a mortgage, you know what step 1 is, what step 2, step 3, step 4. It was not like that. And mm-hmm. So it seemed like an endless maze that has no start and no end. And so I learned a ton about just the challenges of fundraising at that time. And then I was actually successful raising funds for that company. I connected us with some investors that I knew, and I played a pretty prominent role in pitching and presenting to those investors, and we got the funding, which was great. But that was my experience with just fundraising. And then after I left that company, I thought that I had left the startup world, but the startup world didn't leave me.
It keeps following you, doesn't it?
It keeps following me, And so I got approached by a number of founders or wannabe founders about advice and guidance, and particularly about fundraising.
Right.
And I got kind of immersed in the investor community as well, and learning.
You're building your community.
As I'm building my community. And then the stats are not good. So of every 100 founders that asks for money, only 2 of them get the money.
Wow.
And of the 2, 1.6 of them are men and 0.4 of them are women.
I'm surprised it's that
high. Not even half a person is
right.
And so I started thinking about how can I impact positive change?
Mm-hmm.
How can I help move the needle?
Mm-hmm.
As I got all of these founders coming to me and asking for advice and asking me to review their pitch decks or help them figure out who to talk to, I realized that the stats could be higher than what I just shared if these founders had tools and resources to approach it a little more differently.
Right.
Because they don't. They are thrown into this mix that now they have to go fundraise. Well, how do I fundraise? Find the right investor. How do I find the right investor? Well, go meet people. What do I say to the investor when I meet them? I don't know. Say whatever. I mean, it's just they have no tool. They have no resources. And so with all of that, I decided to create Startup Fundraising Academy to really give the founders tools and resources to go about raising capital in a more effective and efficient way than what they have right now.
It's more of a roadmap versus the maze that they were walking through.
Exactly right. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. And when you were seeing, this gap of what companies were doing as they were approaching fundraising to what really works, what was the gap that you were seeing?
Yeah, so great question, Cami. Thank you. There are 3 elements that I saw that the founders that were going about it the right way versus the ones that were lost.
Right.
Three elements. The founders that were going about it the right way is what number one vehicle that they had was a strategy. So they knew they were going to talk to such and such investment firm because, and they had reasons for why that was a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would move to the next investment firm because X, Y, Z, A, B, C. I mean, this was a well thought out strategy that they had.
They weren't just throwing things up on the wall and seeing which would stick.
Exactly. Which most founders, unfortunately, do that.
Okay.
The second element was their knowledge. So in that research, in that roadmap, they had done thorough vetting of the investor to understand why this is a good fit beyond the money. A lot of founders go to investors, they come to me a lot and say, we are so-and-so, we are in this particular industry and we're looking for money. And I ask them, well, what can I offer you besides cash? And they can't answer that. That's dumb money. That's not smart money.
Mm-hmm.
And the founders that I'm seeing successfully raise funding, they are asking for smart money. Mm-hmm. So that was
the expertise behind that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then the third element is that the founders carried themselves with credibility. And I'm not saying they possess credibility. I mean, of course, they had some, but they also carried a lot of credibility with them. How do they show that? Through the questions they asked, through the way they approached me, through just articulation of their business strategy. So they instilled confidence in the heart and mind of the investor versus, I'm a startup founder. I don't know what I'm doing, but I really want money. So please give me money.
Right.
So those were the things that I saw that successful founders utilized.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's like when you think about taking that, stepping into the credibility that they have and owning that, what's the most important thing about, just really owning that presence, that their expertise that you help your clients do?
Yeah. So all of this comes together in the whole pitch event.
Okay.
Whether the pitch event is a big meeting, a big event like the one that we just had in Denver, put on by Chloe Capital, where there are tens of people in the audience, and they're being judged by a panel, or in a private investor meeting. It comes through via their body language, the comfort with the content that they're presenting, their handling of the mishaps, because they happen all the time. The decks get messed up, mixed up, power goes out, you name it, fire alarm goes off. And just to see how the founders react to the mishaps, as well as how do they really convey the message and maintain control of not only content but the session itself. That is really huge.
Yeah. And you know what, it just goes back to where we started in this interview, where, what was happening to you as a young girl, you stayed grounded through that still, right? I mean, you found a grounding through that. So despite what was going on around you, what mishaps were happening, you learned to stay whole there, right? I mean, you learn to really just be there and be in that space. And so I think it's such the analogy of, okay, you're in this pitch meeting and something goes wrong. You stay grounded. That's so important. That is so important. And professional investors, actually, these kinds of things, they make a judgment based on that, because in the startup world, nothing is predictable. Right. And how you react to the mishap shows how you react in real life to the mishaps. And so I've seen both sides where a founder, really, really intelligent founder with a lot of accolade, lose the pitch because the slides got messed up. Right. And then I've seen the other side as well. So that has a lot to do with that credibility, that proof of credibility. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about women who are raising capital. What are the unique opportunities or challenges women face when they are raising capital for their companies? Yeah, great question. Gosh, where do I begin? Right, exactly. Let's start with the challenges. The biggest challenge is because women are not as well represented in the venture capital, particularly venture capital and angel investor community. They do not get support as much as their male colleagues do. Right. In the venture capital community across the United States, there are only 170 investing partners. 170. That's it. Wow. Yes. And that's 9%. And so, you've heard the phrase, you cannot be what you cannot see. It works both ways. I give you a story about, something that happened in a conference in 2012 where a very well-known venture capitalist, white male venture capitalist was asked, who do you invest in? And he said, the people that look like me. Or he said, someone like me. He said, someone like me. Right. And so these partners of venture capital firms, many of them, if not, most of them, are successful entrepreneurs, right? And they are men, and they have gotten to where they've gotten to because they have been successful founders. That's what they want to see, because to them, that's what success looks like. Right. And it's not
it's not, any, let's say, malice on their part. It's just that they're unaware and they're trying to make money for their investors, and they're investing in something they know.
Right. And they're comfortable with, right?
They're comfortable with, right? So lack of representation at the VC level for women, that is a big contributing factor to the stats that I shared with you.
Right.
The other piece that adds to this is just the naivete was probably too nice of a word. I think that the ignorance of the, many venture capitalists, many investors about potential of women, and just women that are driven and career oriented, and they are just as capable as any man to grow a company and make it a unicorn. I'll give you another interesting story. This comes from a very successful founder by the name of Melissa Hanna. And this is in 2015, so this is not too long ago. She was meeting with a 30-something white male venture capitalist who was considering giving her $100,000 of early stage funds. Mm-hmm. And so when he sees her, he kind of cringes, and it's just uncomfortable. And then he makes a remark like, female founders. And then he just left it there. And then at this point, Hannah, being just so astute, and she knew it. She knew what this guy meant, what he didn't say. And she said, I said to him, yeah, I hear you. I understand your concern. And I'll let you know that I am on birth control. I am on the pill. And I hope that you also ask all of your male founders that are pitching if they're using condoms. You do that, right? And so,
and what did he say?
I don't know what he said.
Right. He was, his mouth dropped and he didn't know what to say is what happened, right?
Yeah. So, you were talking about the challenges and opportunities. So I'm speaking about the challenges.
Right.
The opportunity, and I recently put this on one of the social media network. There's a really interesting TED Talk by a woman researcher about why women get what happens in a pitch, presentation, and why is it that women get so little of funding? One of the things that she observed is that the questions that male founders get from venture capitalists all have to do with thinking big and taking risks and growing companies and really getting out there, and it's all visionary and inspirational. The questions that the female founders get all have to do with risk mitigation and how do you protect yourself against, lawsuits and regulations and IP infringement. And so the questions that the female founders were getting were very confining, whereas the male founders were getting very questions that were very inspirational and very accelerating.
And visionary. That's interesting. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah. And so the opportunity for the female founders is to reframe the question and answer it in a way that becomes visionary.
That is fantastic. It's a flip of the question. So when that question comes across the table, it's like, well, let's talk about this from the bigger vision of what can be here.
Exactly.
And really because it's, in that moment, it's like being tuned into hearing that and knowing exactly that's what this kind of a question is, and knowing to make that change. That's brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And are we seeing venture capital firms and, angel investors? Do we see more women coming to the table around this? And is there a desire from the traditional groups to bring in more women into those groups?
Yeah, the talk is there.
Okay.
We haven't seen it in action.
Okay.
All right. So, yes, you look at how much funding went to women from 2018 versus 2017. Yes, a little more. I think 2018 women got $2.3 billion. 2017 women got $2.2 billion. A little more.
Okay.
But it's still 2.3% and 2.2%.
Okay.
That's on the funding side. On the VC side, like I said, the talk is there, but we haven't seen the numbers move.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Okay.
Time will tell.
Yeah, and that's part of it. I mean, like the event that you were mentioning earlier that was here in Colorado last week, that was women-focused funding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
You're starting to see women pull together.
You do. And Chloe Capital is a new venture capital firm. I think they've been in existence for just about a year. They have a lot of support behind them. They are operated by 3 women, and they only focused on women led, at least one female founder,
right,
in the leadership team.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if one of our listeners is tuning in today and they have this idea for a company, right? And they want to raise capital for their business, where do they start?
They go to startupfundraising.academy.
Tell us about that.
Yes. You know, a lot of founders, just like you say, approach me, say they have an idea and they want to raise money. And so a part of it is to understand what kind of money. Not everybody wants or needs to raise money from angel investors or venture capitalists. There are other sources of funds available to entrepreneurs, depending on the nature of their business. So the first step is really to understand what's the right kind of money. Mm-hmm. And if you choose to go after investor money, namely venture and angel, then there are 10 modules in the Startup Fundraising Academy that you can take that really walks you through all the steps of the process. No one else will tell you about how to find the right investors. And when you do find the right investors, how do you court them? And after you finally connect with them, what do you say? And when you meet with them, what do you present? And after you meet with them, how do you negotiate with them? All of this stuff, it's there for people to take advantage of.
That's awesome. And this is starting pretty soon, is it not?
Yeah, it's launching this month, end of this month.
So how can people find out more about that?
They can go to Startup Fundraising, all one word, startupfundraising.academy. They can sign up for an email. There's a little tab says join us, and that basically says, give me your email. And I will be letting everyone know in the next week or 10 days when all the content is there and it's ready for them to consume.
Awesome.
Yeah. Really excited about that.
Right. And so they can go there and sign up, and you've got a discount for any of our listeners today.
That's right. I love Cami. So anybody out there that wants to take advantage of this, I will offer a 10% off to all of you. The coupon code will be KAMI, KAMI. And that's 10% off anything that I have on my site. And some of the things that I offer to founders is review of their pitch deck and feedback. So, if you feel like you've gotten enough information and you know what you want to do, you just want to make sure that your pitch deck is fine-tuned and is awesome, I will help you with that. I can just review your pitch deck, give you feedback, make sure that it's fine-tuned, and you still will get 10% off of that. So anything on my site.
And what is your website?
startupfundraising.academy.
Okay, there we go.
Yes.
We go. So, and then they can also connect with you on social?
They can. The best way to connect with me on social is through LinkedIn.
Okay.
And that's just linkedin.com/in/Arezou, AREZ as in zebra, OU. My Facebook is really, really private. You're on it, Cami. It's all about me being a dog mom and a mom of a 6-year-old boy and all that stuff. So it's very private. But LinkedIn would be the best way.
Okay. And you're on Twitter too.
I am on Twitter. Yes,
okay.
I'm on Twitter. If you just Google me, you'll find my Twitter as well.
Awesome. And we'll put all those links on the show notes so anybody can access those as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So where we always close these interviews is, what 3 pearls of wisdom can you leave with our audience today?
Yeah. 3 pearls of wisdom. The first and foremost, I will say, believe in kindness. In kindness of life, kindness of universe, kindness of people. Believe in it. I think that if you approach life with that attitude, just approaching everything with a belief that it is kind, what you will see is kindness.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
So, thank you. That's number 1. Number 2 is, if you want something, ask for it. Don't wait for it to come to you.
That's a good one.
Ask for it. I was thinking of you actually earlier today, Cami, because I was writing to the government of Singapore, literally the government of Singapore. And I was saying to, dear sir, madam, I want to speak on, startup founding, in your country, and et cetera, because I want to get speaking gigs there. And so, do I know anyone in the government of Singapore? No, I don't. But I want something and I'm asking for it. So ask for it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Boy, I'm so glad you did that.
We'll see.
Because that happened where that started, the seed when you planted it in my living room over our strategy day. Back in December, you go, I want to speak in Singapore. And it's like, well, let's make that happen. So I love that.
Yeah. Yep. I sent an email about 3 hours ago.
That's great. Well, I can't wait to hear when that date gets set up and where you'll be speaking in Singapore.
Yeah. Thank you. And then the third element that I want to, I guess nugget that I want to leave with your audience is, go for it. Yeah. Go for it. If not now, then when?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And there are so many reasons for us to talk ourselves out of something.
Yeah.
Yes, but you go ahead, go find the reason why, not 10 reasons why not.
Yeah.
Go for it. So there you have it.
That's brilliant. That's totally brilliant.
Well,
Arezou, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you for sharing all your expertise on this topic that I think is really important. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Cami. It was a lot of fun.
Okay. You have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. I hope you liked this episode of Extraordinary Women Radio. If you did, please share this podcast with your own special tribe of women and help spread the love, the dreams, and the inspiration. Are you ready to raise up your voice, your visibility, and your business? I invite you to visit me at CamiGellner.com to find out how you can make heartfelt connections to mindful strategies to ignite an abundant flow of cash and clients into your business. I'd love to hear from you on any of my social media channels. I'm on both Facebook and Twitter. Till next time, my friend, listen to your heart, follow your dreams, and be you.